Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled End Times 384 Your Victory Over Complacency, Part 1. The Power to Bring You into Your Purpose. The podcast objectives are analyze why we must put on Yahushua Messiah, reveal how we experience permanent change in the spirit, and reveal how transformation unites us with our purpose. This lesson contains timelines and other visuals. Therefore, if you are listening to the podcast, I advise you to watch the video version on our website or YouTube, or request a PDF of the lesson so you can add the visual effect. The transfer of spiritual DNA. Shalom, my beloved brothers and sisters, and welcome to day 166 of our exposition of lawlessness. In the most recent podcast, we concluded our three-part intro to transformation, i.e., the critical degree of obedience, i.e., the critical degree of holiness. And thus, we must move forward with our remit. To wit, we must analyze how transformation eliminates complacency, i.e., the critical degree of disobedience, and one of the deadliest degrees of lawlessness. We should start by considering the table to the right, recapping what we have learned about transformation. By definition, transformation is complete change of form, structure, or substance, the conversion of an entity as to change the use or purpose, the transfer of genetic material from one cell to another, resulting in a genetic change in the recipient cell. And the primary objective of transformation is to change your mind by purging your thought dimension of anything contrary to the Father's will. Now, the definition and primary objective of transformation reveal why it is the antithesis of complacency. Vis-a-vis, transformation is the primary change agent who facilitates your spiritual growth, and complacency is a change resistor who promotes the status quo. This speaks to the sink or swim, make or break nature of our quest for holiness. 'Tis a key matter we have discussed in prior podcasts, but I am led to address it again, beginning with the following inflection point. There are only two long-term states in the spiritual sphere: progression and regression. Ergo, anyone who is not experiencing spiritual growth is, by default, in regression. And as you have learned in recent podcasts, it is impossible to experience spiritual growth if you are not being transformed. Alas, in every other scenario, you are being held fast by a stronghold of complacency. No doubt, this is where you were before you received the spirit of Elohim, and it is where Satan wants to keep you. Even more than he wants to deceive you, the enemy wants you to be complacent with regards to your spiritual trait. Here is why. If you continue in complacency, you will fail to put on Yahushua Messiah. Now, the question we should chiefly entertain is, What is the great detriment in our failure to put on Yahushua Messiah? The answer is sure. Besides the fact that we are disobeying the command of Elohim, we are making provision for our flesh. For while we are complacent and failing to become masters of our faith, every stronghold in our lives becomes stronger. Alas, every spiritual virus evolves and spreads, setting the stage for us to walk according to the flesh. Romans 13 through 14 is revealing. Let us walk becomingly, as in the day, not in wild parties and drunkenness, not in living together and indecencies, not in fighting and envy, but put on the Master, Yahushua Messiah, and make no provision for the lust of the flesh. Romans 8:1 is revealing. There is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Messiah Yahushua, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. No doubt, to put on Yahushua Messiah requires us to be transformed into his spiritual model. And per its definition, transformation is a transfer of genetic material from one cell to another, resulting in a genetic change in the recipient cell. Here is the spiritual parallel of this model. The process of transformation includes a transfer of the spiritual DNA of Yahushua Messiah into the spiritual bodies of those who walk in the way of holiness. This transfer is orchestrated by the Spirit of Elohim, for his Spirit contains the spiritual DNA of our Master, Yahushua Messiah. To wit, the 64 degrees of holiness, 64 degrees that made Yahushua the perfect man and our example, which is why we must follow his steps and be transformed into his image and his likeness if we are to have everlasting life. To bring us into our purpose. Now, this critical facet of transformation lends itself to another. Vis-a-vis, transformation includes a complete change of form, structure, or substance, which results in the conversion of an entity as to change the use or purpose. This is, no doubt, the offshoot of the transfer of spiritual DNA we experience as we walk in the way of holiness. Remember, our spirit division takes precedence over our physical division and our souls. Ergo, the only way to execute permanent change in our form, structure, or substance is by transforming our spiritual division. Brothers and sisters, hear me when I say, this is huge. Listen to me. I've heard every argument as to why men and women don't experience the permanent change required for them to be transformed into the image and likeness of Yahushua Messiah. Now, let me tell you something. I've heard every excuse in the book as to why the false brothers and sisters in our midst can't stop sinning. I've been harassed with false justification, incoherent vindication, and the empty reasonings of muddled thinking. And they all stem from a depressing reality. To wit, these dissenters don't understand the transformation process. Listen to me. As these individuals are not being led by the Spirit of Elohim, they cannot perceive how he has the power to change each of us completely so that we fulfill our purpose in his kingdom. Now, Here lies the inflection and the problem. Vis-a-vis, Yahuwah has not revealed the power of transformation to them. And if you're wondering why, I'll tell you. It's because they have not fulfilled the requirements on transformation. As we discussed in the most recent podcast, you must unlock the powers of hope, trust, reliance, compliance, and conformance before you unlock the power of transformation. And if you really think about it, scriptural theology could support no other way. Should you succeed in this endeavor, you will find that transformation occurs and will only occur as you walk in the way of holiness. This is a key finding which reveals a critical attribute concerning this legendary path. Consider this, my friends. The spiritual DNA required to transform your spiritual division is ingrained within the way of holiness. In this order, the way of holiness is actuated. To wit, it injects the spiritual DNA of Yahushua Messiah into our beings as we walk in this way. My dear friends, this is precisely why we are unable to make progress in our quest apart from transformation. My dear friends, you must believe me. Until we unlock the power of transformation, we have no prospects of ever reigning over the 80 degrees of lawlessness. This speaks to the definition of transformation. Vis-a-vis, transformation is designed to change the use or purpose of an entity. Here lies another critical aspect of transformation that many do not consider. And so we shall consider it with the following inflection point. Transformation is designed to bring you into your purpose. That is the ministry, i.e., the office the Father has specifically designed for you. Here lies the inflection and the problem. Vis-a-vis, the primary reason why many are failing in their offices is because they have not unlocked the power of transformation, which leads to another fault. Vis-a-vis, many are in offices they were never called to. Incompetent leaders may have put them in these offices, but Yahuwah never called them. And in every case, these individuals are failing in their offices because they have not been thoroughly prepared for the work of the ministry. Alas, this is the primary reason why the religious world is filled with so many failed ministries. It's not only because men and women are in the wrong offices, quite the contrary. More often than not, it's because they entered these offices at the wrong time. To wit, they got ahead of the Father and entered these offices prior to completing the spiritual conversion required for them to succeed. For that reason, we should take a closer look at the process of transformation to see how we experience the spiritual conversion required to grow into our purpose. And we will in the upcoming podcast. Yahuwah bless until then. Now, here is the final word. Our religious world is quite the circus, except for those who live with purpose. The reason why is sure. Vis-a-vis, we are incomplete without our purpose. Along these lines, our purpose is the manifestation of the unique template Yahuwah used when he created us, when he formed us before the beginning. And thus, our life is more or less a momentary vapor evaluated by one simple question: did we find and fulfill our purpose? And the only way we can answer this question with a resounding yes is if we unlock the power of transformation. Here lies the inflection and the inconvenient truth. That is, the man or woman you are today is not equal to your purpose. He or she is not worthy of it. He or she is unable to fulfill it. And you will only make things worse if you try. But if you allow the spirit of Elohim to have his way with you and transform you into the man or woman Yahuwah made you to be from the beginning, you, my friend, will find that you and your purpose are a perfect fit. And so I recommend, don't be complacent. Don't settle for the status quo. And don't be deceived in believing you are somehow getting by. For if you live your life without purpose, you are getting nowhere fast. And if you're not careful, very soon, you and your purpose will both die. Now, here is today's assignment. Meditate on all the lessons you have heard this week and ask the Father to give you clarity on anything you are struggling to receive. And if you are led, please feel free to reach out to me. You can fill out a form on our website and let us know what questions you have. And remember, the only question that can truly hurt you is the one you fail to ask. Last but not least, enjoy the upcoming Shabbat and the weekend, and be ready to get back at it next week as we continue to make our calling and election sure in pursuit of the precious and priceless seal of Elohim. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, End Times 384, Your Victory Over Complacency, Part 1. And the next podcast is entitled End Times 385, Your Victory Over Complacency, Part 2. I will post this podcast on Monday, December 16th, 2024. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim. Continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming. The end is near.